Okay, hello everyone. So we start this Python mini project. Title is how to send mass mailing program using Python in .csv file framework. So how to send the email using Python? First, we have to enable the two-step authentication in Gmail. So we have to open the Gmail account that we want to use. For this one, we use this email, and we have to click here, apps, and go to account, and go to the security, and scroll down to sign in to Google. We can find two-step verification. Before this is turned off, we have to turn it on first, and have to register with our phone number. And after that, we can register here app password. We have to key in our password, and then we have the the app password that we want to use. The app password is used because Python doesn't need to use two-step verification. So that the Python can send the email without any pain. Yes, this one we already create the password that we will use it in Python programming. Okay, so for example, when we want to send our bulk email, we have to first create an email. For example, this is the without using the Python. We have to first key in our receiver email. For example, we have one email. First the gmail.com. Okay, subject. We can put here as email. Okay, for example, on each email, we want a details that that have on the receiver. For the receiver, so for example, we want to have their name, Mr. T. First, we want to have their own name on the email. So then we can create the text email that we want. This is a test email. Okay, for example, this is just an example of email that we can create. But the thing is, this took a long time to create a specific email, a detail or a details email that include with the sender details, for example, their name and all the details that we want to include in the email. So this is the first email that we want to send. For example, we want to send 20 emails at one time. So we have to create a new email every time we want to send an email to this 20%. So this times uh, took our time, and when we it's not a very good thing lah, because we tend to keep our activity in doing this, which is a tedious thing to do. So that's why we create a Python Python program to automate all these things, all this email. We just by one click we can send all the email with the detail included. Let's begin the coding first. Okay, we use PyCharm as our Python IDE. Okay, first we need to enable send an email using Python. We need to use built-in module for sending email using SMTP. SMTP Simple Mail Transport Protocol library. So how to import? We have to just write import SMTP lib. Okay, and then we import our CSV because we're using CSV file, and then lastly we have to import from email message import email message. Okay, this one. So the email message is used is a module used to assembly the email structure, which include the subject, address, content of the email from the email we just create. Okay, first we want to create a email server communication with Gmail. So first we want to create definition, send email with email ID. So first we want to create a SMTP session. SMTP session where the server will communicate where the Python will communicate with the Gmail server. Okay, the how we create here is SMTP equal SMTP library dot SMTP for the first one we want to use Gmail server. So for Gmail, the using this server gmail.com, and then we need to use the port that we want to use. So the port that we'll be using is 587, which is a default port used for handling sending of email through SMTP. It also uses TLS. TLS is a transport layer security with encryption to ensure the email is delivered securely. We want to start our TLS for security. SMTP dot start TLS. Okay, TLS. Okay, and then we have to authenticate the user. So we want to log in into our email. SMTP dot login our email ID, and we include our password. And if everything is fine, our email address is correct one, and our password also is correct one. So we want it to print out. Okay, we want it to print out log in successfully. This is this one to inform that our email. We are able to log into our email. Okay, to create a CSV file, we can either create it inside the Python itself, inside the PyCharm itself. By we just create a um create a new file, and then we just save it as a CSV. But for my case, we can create it by using Excel. By using Excel, you can just put it inside here. The name and email ID. Okay. From these three uh, row, from these three column, we can insert here the honorific. For example, like Mr. Chong, and the email ID that we want to use later on. You can put it whatever email ID. This is for example. Okay, and you can put it how much how many you can put it. And the data that you want to put inside is based on yourself and how many and how much you want to put inside this CSV file. Okay, for example, I just this example for to create the CSV file, we just click file and then we click save, and then make sure that we save the CSV file inside the same file as the Python program at. And so make sure to click the CSV format and then click save. But for my case, I already create the CSV file and save the file inside my Python, my PyCharm. Okay, I already open my CSV inside the PyCharm. Okay, on the PyCharm, you will see that the PyCharm will separate the data by a comma, as you can see here. But from the CSV inside the Excel, you can find that the data is separated by a column, by a table. So you can see here for the honorifics, we all on the same place. For at the first one the honorifics, the Mrs., Mr. and Mrs. So the second one is for name, era, Heritica, Chong and May, and then the second one and the third one is email ID. This one the email ID that we want to send to the sender using the email ID. Okay, for side note here, if you want to send an email, an actual email, I have to create many email, right? So to simplify that, Gmail already have their own tips that you can send the email without need to create a new email. So from this one, you can see that I'm using the same. Basically, this is the same email sender, but using the plus sign, we actually can create a multiple email receiver, but actually it just sent to our this email. So by just add a plus sign, I mean you can write anything. I mean we can write personal, and then you can add another one plus person to at gmail.com. So basically you can just duplicate it here. You can just duplicate it until whatever number of email that you want to send. So that's a tips lah for sending it and testing the email to the using the email using the Gmail. Okay, next we already set up our CSV file. Okay, then we need to call out our CSV file. CSV file. This one is the name that we use to save the file. So for me, I just put in details dot CSV. This is the name that we use to save the CSV file. And then we have to initialize in the CSV fields and CSV value list, so we're able to call out the value inside the CSV values equal square bracket. Okay, now we create a with statement to mention that CSV file is in a read mode. The file object is named as the CSV file that we want to use. So the with statement is right. With open bracket CSV file slash we want to able to read the CSV file so that the Python can call out the value inside the CSV file. Okay, then we convert the file object CSV dot reader CSV file. File object CSV file. Okay, so and then next we want to skip our CSV header there. Like we have just now, we have the honorifics email ID and the name. We have to skip the first header, and then we just continue for the details. So we need to skip first CSV reader object. Okay, now we can call out we want to fetch the values from the rows of the CSV file one by one to add it to the CSV value. We can use it as a call row in CSV with the object CSV value dot append row. So value CSV value. So we want to call each value inside the CSV value list and send the email in the content of the CSV value list. Okay, first we create a subject. Now we have to create email. First we create subject, okay, reminder, and use subject, and then we put our body. Our body is a text in our email. What we want to put inside our email text. Then we put good day, and just now you remember, right? We already have our details on the CSV. So now we want to call out the value inside the CSV. So to call out the value, we have to put the plus sign value square bracket, and now what we want to call out is depends on the value we put inside here. So the first column, the first one, we have the value of 0. So if we put 0, we have the honorifics, and then the honorifics is Mrs., Mr., and Mrs. here. And for value number 1 is the name, and number 2 is for the email ID. So from there we can call out our data by just putting the value. So we want to put the honorific here. We want to call it, so put our zero value, and then plus sign, start the bracket, oh yeah, and then we want to put a space between the honorifics and the name. If not, it will be squished together. So we put space here, then put plus sign, value, square bracket, and the name, the plus sign, and a comma. Then we put a slash here. We want to indicate that there's another test inside this. Make sure that the next type is n slash n. That means we skip two space here, and then we put more detail. This the email to inform your house and see. Okay, and then we go to a slash. We want to put another thing. Depends on how you want it to have inside the test here. Have a great day. Then we get another line here. Slash, and we want to put our sign. First dot comma, then skip below, put our name. So here, from here, we on our side is a reminder, and then the body, all these things here will be input inside the email content here. Okay, next, we can configure our email header fields. So this one we already import our email message. So we use the email message class, and we want to create an object that will hold all the details of the email message. So we put message equal our email message. This one we want to hold all the details of the email message. Create an object to hold all the details on the email message. Our subject here it will be the same as the subject we input on the top here. And the next is from this one will be our, okay, on the Gmail we can make it a name before our later we show you. For this we just write is test email, and then message to our receiver. Okay, this one we can just import it from the CSV value. Okay, from the CSV details we can see that the email ID is on the column number 3, but in the value is on number 2 because it's starting from 0. So we just put number 2 here. And then lastly, we want to configure email message body. The message content will be using the set contact method on the object to send the email. Set contact, then we call out our message. And then lastly, we want to print out okay, message send to space, then we copy the name. We don't want to, it depends on you want to put the email or you want to put the name only or email ID. For me, I want it to print out the name receiver that I already sent. So using the same method, call out the value 0 plus space plus value number 1. Then need to make sure that we terminate the server. Okay, next we want to create driver code. If name is equal, okay, then we want to make sure that the user will input the email ID and password. But for me, better we put the email that we want to use. Code sits at gmail.com, and then the password. For the password, we ask the user to input the password to make sure that the user will make sure that he the one that insert run the program by himself. We use the input as the user input to insert the password, and then we after user set the input, we run the send email, email ID, and the password. And from this one, there's the argument definition here. So after the user input the password, you can run through here. So that's how you want to create email using Python. Okay, the next thing that I want to include here is we want to make sure that every time we want to send this email, for example, for this email will be sent monthly. So I want it to have their own time. So we don't need to input month and year by ourselves manually. We can just use import date time. Date time. Okay, from here we actually can put in the date that we want to use. So here I will use the date now. I mean the by the time the email sent, it will use the month and year on that time. On that time the email the Python code is sent. Okay, the next so we want to put the time in our subject. Okay, so for the subject here, we want to have the time here, reminder on, and then a plus sign. We copy back here, copy back, plus sign x dot start time. Okay, now in this bracket we can input the, for example, from here I want to input is our month and year. So for month we can use code capital B and then plus with uh, plus with space here and capital Y. This one is for year and this one is for month. Month and year plus sign. Okay, from this subject here we will have the email will be powered as a reminder on the date, the month and year we send this Python we send this email. And then in this body also I want to put the time and date also. 3 or plus sign as the start or not as start time, copy back inside the our text here. Okay, so and then the stop sign, full stop, full stop here. Okay, and then from the email here, email body here we have just a reminder email to inform on your strength 3 for the date, the month and date and month and year. Okay, so now we can try to send the email. So to run the code here, we can just use this one button and then we insert the app password here, not the password that we use to log in the email, the password that we create on the app password in the Gmail account just now. So enter. So from the log description here, we able to log in with the correct password here. From here, so that we already log in successfully, and then the email already sent to the value here, Mr. Ritika, Fuchong, and Mrs. May. And then we can try to check inside our email address here. Okay, so this is the email from Mr. Ritika. As a reminder from your entry for the August, the date that you want to use. This one's the month and the year. We just paste inside our code. As you can see here on the email sender from just now in the message body and the message from here we put our name lah. So basically you can put anything. So for for this test I just put this as a test email, and then this also sent to the same email ID. This is the same email address as a sender, but this now says but the Gmail can have this tips to try to send the email from the CSV file here. I just use one different email, and then another three is the same as the sender email. So if we see here Heritika, Chong, and May using the same email as me, so this one is for Heritika, Mr. Heritika, and then this one for Mr. Chong is the person number 2, same as our Mrs. Chong as person number 2, gmail.com, and lastly Mrs. May using the same email as person 3. Hey boss, and then another one, the last one. Last one is Miss Era. Mrs. Era. But the Mrs. Era using different email. As you can see there, the security tag is at TLS as we use this now. So that's all how to send an email using Python with CSV file format. So from here we can justify that using the Python we can reduce the time taken to send the email. So from here, from just Discord, from just Discord alone, you can just send the email by a click a button and just insert the password. And all the email will be sent automatically without the need of the user to create a new email one by one and then need to edit inside the text to get the details of the receiver. Okay, that's all for my mini project Python. Okay, thank you.